Sooner fans, Longhorn Nation, welcome to episode 181 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma. I'm here with my man, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. Kevin, we have an all-star guest today.
Big time.
He is the first off-the-bench reliever for the Sooner radio broadcast of OU baseball. He is the current host of the current co-host of the Plank Show on KREF, and about to be the future co-host of the Dari Noka Show on KREF. Josh Helmer. Josh, what's up, bud? How are you?
I'm doing great. John, Kevin, great to hang out with you guys. Big fan of what you guys do with this podcast, and just happy to be here, man. How we doing?
Dude, we're fantastic. Kevin, are you all right? Are you going to hang in there with
I'm doing great. Hey, no, I can take it. I live here in Oklahoma, so I'm used to it. Used to being attempted bullying by you guys.
It won't be attempted. It will be legit bullying. It will be overt and inappropriate bullying. Josh, big news today. Let's start with you professionally and with the radio station. Coincidentally, KREF announced that Dari Noka will be hosting the 9 to noon show on KREF with you. What do you make of the news? Are you excited about this? And tell us what you know so far about how this show's going to look.
Well, this was a tough one to sit on for as long as kind of you had to sit on it. You know, you're sitting on a grand slam, walk-off, out of the park home run, and when can we just get to announcing this thing? So step one was not slipping up on air and saying Dari Noka's name. So mission accomplished. We were able to make it to the actual announcement day. I'm so excited, man. I would be remiss if I didn't open by saying that I've been so fortunate to get to work alongside Chris Plank for as long as I have. He has, to me, in terms of broadcasting and in the industry, he's been, you know, at times like my father figure of sorts, at times like my older brother of sorts in the industry. So I'm indebted to Plank for his wisdom and his friendship and his guidance over the years. So there's a part of you that's, you know, sad that everyday professional relationship, you know, is no more. But then the other half is, look, man, Dari Noka is coming to the ref, and I get to work with that guy. I get to be, alongside who I think is so incredibly versatile. If Dari Noka wanted to be one of the lead writers on ESPN, he would be one of the best lead writers on ESPN. If Dari Noka wanted to be strictly a play-by-play voice, Dari Noka would be one of the best national play-by-play voices. So, but guess what? He can be a great play-by-play voice. He can be the lead anchor for the SEC network. And now he can be one of the top show hosts in the Oklahoma City market and with the KREF app kind of worldwide with us at KREF. So to get to work with that kind of professional, man, I don't know that there's a way to overstate it. It's awesome. I'm fired up about it. I can't wait to work with this guy, get to know Dari, and obviously learn from him too.
I want to start with the bullying piece of it, Kevin, that we're going to direct at you. Josh, on the screen, is Kevin misspelling Dari Noka's last name in an attempt to throw shade at him as an OU fan? That's what I want to know before we go any longer.
I think he's got it right, don't you? Do you have the spelling right?
Has he got an extra H in there? Dari's got an extra H in his name? There, Kevin, I stand corrected.
Come on,
well
man.
Done.
Yeah.
You're a professional. I want you to know you're a professional. It looks a little weird to me. I just wanted to call it out in case Dari wants to tune in to his new co-host. I didn't want him to think that as a Texas fan, you were immediately shaming him for taking this job.
No. I'm a fan. He does a great job. He's been, the lead anchor on the SEC network since its inception, and he does an awesome job. So I'm looking forward to, you got to keep your enemies close. So I'm looking forward to tuning in and, getting as much intel on the OU program as possible.
I should say too, John, that look, this is, as I said, a grand slam, slam dunk, home run hire, and it wouldn't have been possible without the leadership of Brian and Casey Vineyard, their vision. Toby Rowland was instrumental in making this happen. Teddy Lehman was instrumental in making this happen. I think Tyler McComas, what he's done from a social media and, networking standpoint for the station, I think was instrumental in making this happen. So just a lot of different people at the Ref, their reputations, the hard work that's been put into building a brand got this done, right? Got it across the finish line, and obviously our great leaders. So it's exciting.
Well, I think it's pretty cool. It's no secret that I work for Brown O'Haver, and we are a longtime advertiser with KREF. So we've seen kind of the evolution of the station over the last, I think we've been a partner now for 10, 11, 12 years, something like that. And for me, the growth point was, if you look at like the trajectory of the radio station, it's really interesting how being prepared and being lucky creates opportunities, right? So in 21, y'all got the big signal. Remember this, right? You got the big signal, which also happened to coincide with Spencer Rattler being pushed by Caleb Williams with one of the best OU Texas games in the history, I think, in the history of the rivalry. Then you've got the Caleb Williams taking over and the phenomenon he was. And then to top it all off, at the end of the season, Lincoln Riley ups and leaves and creates probably the greatest jump in your numbers that y'all have ever seen. And then you kick in with the app, and to your point, the advertising with the app. So now you fast forward to where you're at today, and it allows a guy like Dari Noka that, even though this is a local radio station, it very much is going to have a national reach. And that's what's cool as an advertiser and just as an Oklahoma fan, right? To know that we as a university are going to be out there on a national stage, but have a home feel to it, right? Dude, you don't want to listen to sports radio if you're not listening to homers to some extent, right? You don't want haters. You want to feel good about it. And Dari Noka, that's why you listen to Toby. That's why you listen to Plank. There's no two bigger homers in sports than Toby and Plank, right? But now you got Dari. I'll give you a quick my Dari story, and I think I've told Kevin this. This was way back in the day when he started hosting. This was even before the SEC Network, because wasn't he on College Football Live?
He's been all over the map, yeah.
So I want to say this was like 2011, 2012, and he's hosting a show with Mike Bellotti, the former coach at Oregon. And somehow, inevitably, it gets turned onto the play with the fumble, right? On the onside kick. Not the fumble, but on the onside kick and the recovery. And Mike Bellotti's like, oh, well, that happened in 2005. And Dari's like, oh, well, with respect, coach, it happened in 2006. And then Mike Bellotti goes, well, I'm the coach. I would know what day it happened, And then Dari's like, it was my kid's first birthday. We were grilling. We were barbecuing. I know exactly where I was. I know how bad the call was. And I disagree with you, coach, respectfully, but it was in 2006, and it is burned in the minds of every OU fan. That conversation has stuck with me forever, and it echoed every sentiment that we as Oklahoma fans have. And I can't wait for this guy, dude. I'm excited.
I thought it was clear in his initial remarks this morning with Toby and TJ that he's so genuinely excited to, take off that national cap. I think you asked earlier, hey, do you know any idea sort of what the vision of the show will be? And I would anticipate, because of Dari Noka's connections, Kevin, there's going to be a lot of SEC conversations. I think this will not just be locally in Oklahoma football, Oklahoma basketball, OU athletics show. At times it'll be broader than that because Dari Noka brings that expertise and those connections to the Ref. He can get Greg Sankey on the Ref, the commissioner of the SEC. So I think that's going to be cool at times for opposing fan bases to want to tune in to what's going on with the Dari Noka show, because he brings those connections and that expertise. And there will be more of that, from 9 to noon with Dari and myself on the Ref. So that part's exciting. And then in that, John, he has a genuine excitement, having said all of that, to take that national hat off, I think, at times, and to get to cover OU on a more serious and more complex basis, and to talk some Thunder. So you could sense that it's a homecoming, right, of sorts, and I think that's really cool.
Well, the reason we had you on the show to begin with, we did not purposely time this with the Darinoka announcement, although I'm glad we did, was because we've got Oklahoma, Texas baseball season series finale for both schools. Number 3 ranked Texas is coming to L. Dale Mitchell Park this weekend. You'll be on the call for 2 out of the 3 games, right? I think Friday and Saturday. Talk to us about the series, what we should be paying attention to, and then we'll just kind of take it from there.
Well, obviously the pitching for Texas, trying to solve the code on a couple of really good left-handed starters throughout the course of the weekend. When you look at Cade Bing and you think about Luke Harrison, a couple of really good weekend guys, as you would suspect, this opening contest, it'll be fun. I'm not obviously on the call for Kyson Witherspoon versus Cade Bing, but that matchup is that's the type of ticket you want to pay for, right? Is to watch those kind of guys get after it.
Two major leaguers, right? I mean, they'll be in the majors, right, at some point in their career.
Absolutely.
Are we saying too much? Not really.
No, I don't think so. And certainly with Oklahoma, feel confident in saying that Kyson Witherspoon, he's about to be a very high MLB first-round draft pick. He's been dynamite over the course of this season. He was great a year ago, and John, he's been better this season with what he's done with 9 wins. You feel like that 9-3 win-loss record probably should be maybe a game, maybe a couple of games better, but he's been awesome already with triple-figure strikeouts. He's must-watch television if you're not coming to the park, and if you're thinking about buying a ticket, he's the reason that you buy a ticket, to watch Kyson Witherspoon go out there and deal. But can Oklahoma, can the Bats, can they solve this great pitching for Texas? So I think, you're looking at that. With Oklahoma, the Dayton Taki factor, he, of course, was injured a couple of weeks back. Skip Johnson said just today that he could be utilized in a pinch hit capacity. Obviously, he's not going to be a first baseman this weekend for OU, so that's something to watch. I don't think that we see Dayton Taki. I think that if you're the training staff for Oklahoma, you think about it and you say, okay, you're so close to the SEC tournament, and both of these two teams, certainly for Texas and I think for OU as well, comfortably inside that NCAA tournament college baseball regionals picture. So I'm thinking I'm going to save him to be healthy for sure for the postseason in that regard. But if I do think about, hitting Dayton Taki beforehand, I'm probably waiting until the SEC tournament. But that's at least out there, that's a possibility that maybe you could see him get an at-bat or two in a key moment. So that's, I think, something to watch. And then just lastly, both of these two teams, Oklahoma, obviously a frustrating weekend at Kentucky, a hungry Kentucky team that you look at those at-large pictures for the postseason, and they were right there smack dab on the bubble a weekend ago, and they swept Oklahoma to take themselves into the right side of that picture. Not a good week for Oklahoma in that regard. You're trying to end the season versus a great team in Texas in this Red River rivalry contest. Get yourself to where you're feeling good going into the SEC tournament. There's an outside chance if you sweep and you get the right help, it would be, a strong combination of help that you could play yourself out of being, in that opening day of the SEC tournament, though. That's a long shot. You're probably locked in if you're Oklahoma to play in that first day of the SEC tournament. But if you sweep Texas, then there's a chance that you wouldn't, right? So that's at stake. But I just think for both teams, not coming into this weekend feeling poorly about the way you're playing down the stretch, because Texas obviously swept by Arkansas. Then they turn around and they lose a series to Florida. And again, we talked about OU being swept by Kentucky. So just feeling good about yourself going into the SEC tournament and the postseason in general.
What do you feel like the postseason outlook is for the Sooners this year?
Well, again, if you sweep this series, and then if you go on a heater, obviously, if you go on and win the SEC tournament, I think under that scenario, and that's going on a heater down the stretch. I think that gets you into a regional hosting capacity for Oklahoma. They're on the outside of that picture right now. If you look at the RPI, I think they're 26 right now. So that would, you'd have to seriously climb in order to do that. But I think this team is fully capable of winning a regional in the right setup. I suspect that it will be on the road for Oklahoma as a 2 seed, and we'll see kind of what that final picture looks like. But I think with Kyson Witherspoon as your lead arm, you feel like you're capable of beating anybody in that opening contest. And Cade Crossland and Malachi Witherspoon are two other good starting arms that at times, if Cade Crossland, if he eliminates the free passes and if he can avoid the blow-up inning, that's been the problem for Cade Crossland, Kevin, is there's that one inning that it just goes sideways on him. So if he can avoid that crooked number inning, he's fully capable, I think, of going and winning an NCAA tournament game for you out there. So you like that 1, 2, 3 in the rotation. Crossland and Malachi Witherspoon obviously have not been near the degree of consistent that Kyson Witherspoon has been. But I think with those three, you've got a chance to win an NCAA regional. I don't think that's an unreal expectation. And then you get into a super, and we'll see about trying to take 2 out of 3 and get into the College World Series.
Yeah, the conference is such a gauntlet, right? It just feels like there's so many teams that have a chance to do something special in the postseason. Like you said, if they just go on a heater.
Well, I was gonna say Skip has historical precedents for his OU teams going on a heater, right? 22. Where we expect, I'm not the biggest baseball fan. I get pretty fired up once we get into postseason. But when it was the Big 12, we weren't expected to win that Big 12 title that year, were we? In 22, that eventually propelled us to Omaha.
No, they definitely would not have been the favorite going in, but they started to, all the pieces, lightning in a bottle at the right time, play their best baseball at the Big 12 tournament and obviously beyond. And the emergence, the rise that postseason of Cade Horton was gigantic for that team. You were waiting on him to get healthy. And then by the end of the year, you started really seeing a healthy Cade Horton, and he wound up kind of looking like the first version of the major leaguer that obviously he is today for the Cubs. So yes, the Sooners under Skip Johnson have done that as recently as that season where he got to the championship series. So as a Sooner broadcaster and for Sooner fans, you're hoping that, let's see something similar right now.
Okay. Texas is in their first year under Schlossnagle. Before we get too deep into Schlossnagle, about the only thing that OU and Texas fans can pretty consistently agree on is that we love to see the absolute fall on the face of Texas A&M. And this season has been a complete joy to both fan bases. Obviously, Texas probably has a bigger smile on their face with the poaching of Schlossnagle to A&M. A&M being preseason ranked number 1. I think they're 10-17 in conference right now. Just real quick on A&M, any commentary? Is this the biggest choke job of a year you've ever seen from a preseason number 1 ranked team?
I don't have a good historical reference for,
but it feels like a pretty big choke job, right? I mean, we can agree on that.
Oh, it's relative to being the preseason number 1. It's been a train wreck.
Awesome.
So
I love it.
And I know a lot of Texas and Oklahoma fans certainly love it. No doubt about that. I don't know the historical ramifications of other number 1, preseason number 1 teams that fell this flat on their face. But guys, what happened with them versus Missouri took it to a whole different level of debacle. So it's been a train wreck, no question.
And then obviously the catalyst for that train wreck was Texas poaching Schlossnagle, the coach. This guy's won everywhere. Is number 1. What are your thoughts on Schlossnagle in year 1 at Texas? Number 2, I would ask for Oklahoma fans, I'd like to know where we need to rank him in the hierarchy of coaches we hate at Texas, right? Because I've got a pretty decent hierarchy that I express pretty weekly. But fill us in on Schlossnagle, how you think he's doing, how's he going to do, and then where do we need to rank him in coaches we hate at Texas?
Well, it was a coup for Texas, obviously, to pry him away, and that is a definite big brother moment. So, Kevin, congrats on that.
Thank you.
That had
That
to.
felt great. It was amazing. Absolutely.
I figured it would. I think there's no doubt he's one of the best in all of college baseball. He's won everywhere he's been. He's doing that again with Texas now. If they grab one of these games, they're the SEC regular season champion. So, not impossible for OU to sweep this thing, but you feel pretty good, right, about Texas's chances to probably at least get one of these and be the SEC champion. So to come into this league and to do that in year one, I know there's been debate and discussion about there of, hey, the hand got loaded to some degree with the home series for Texas. And I guess my response to that would be, okay, so we played the ball as the ball was light and we handled it great and took advantage of the opportunity. So I think he's done a tremendous job. I think he's if not, that short list of greatest coaches in college baseball, he's right there, in that mix. And obviously has done a remarkable job this season at Texas. Unfortunately, on the hate list, I mean, you tell me, John, he doesn't seem to be the most unlikable guy. Maybe he could do something unlikable this weekend to kind of climb that depth chart in a hurry, right?
I mean, we think it's Mike White, right? He's at the top of the list for sure.
No question.
It's got to be Mike White.
Yeah. Kevin, you don't even like Mike White, right? I mean, you agree that Mike White's a douche, right? You would agree with that?
Well, I mean, I can see why opposing fan bases.
That's the weakest clarification.
Like
that's the weakest clarification I've ever heard.
No, I get it, but you need villains. You need villains in sports, and he's a great one. We'll leave it at that.
All right, so we got Mike White, and then I don't like Vic Schaefer. I think he's a bit much on the sidelines with the antics. Okay, it's just it is like from the tip, he is on the refs, and he's a good coach. Obviously, Texas had a great year in girls basketball. Probably another reason why I don't like him. And then for me, I'm trying to decide: do we hate Sark more than Schlossnagle just because Sark is so good? Or do you hate Sark more than Vic Schaefer? Like, what do you think we should kind of start to massage this list to look like?
With all due respect to the, yes, definite surliness with women's basketball and its leadership at Texas, I think football has to kind of leapfrog there, right?
That's fair.
And I don't think Steve Sarkisian has been, he's certainly a total departure from Tom Herman and flipping the birds and some of the antics, a bowl game versus Missouri you could maybe point to. There was some childish antics at times from Tom Herman. And Sark is not that, right? I mean, he hasn't gotten out there in a press conference setting and really said or done anything particularly unlikable, but he's beat you and he stomped you badly in a couple of Red River games, unfortunately, in 2 out of the past 3. So for that alone, I think he's definitely, chomping at the bit there. Well, look.
I agree, but we're still 500 against Sark. Aren't we? Or yeah, we're 500 against Sark.
Yeah, Sark is 2-2.
One of the greatest comebacks, the aforementioned 2021, and then the only final drive comeback for a touchdown in the history of the series. So we've kind of snatched some things out of his heart, which I think, I don't know, but you're right. The butt kickings that we've received have been epic and awful. Awful.
Historically bad. The Davis Bevel game, that one's going to be in a nightmare somewhere for a long, long time. I don't know if there's any getting rid of that.
I still can't believe that happened.
Year one of the podcast, Josh. Year one of the podcast.
I'm so sorry, John.
I just don't know why you take Braden Willis out at quarterback. I know he's a tight end, but they're moving the ball with him. I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but they're moving the ball with Braden Willis. You got a guy that can't throw a screen pass. Like, I don't even know what's happening. Now, the sheer fact that Oklahoma didn't even have a decent backup quarterback should have been our first concern as to the offensive trajectory of this program. However, Braden Willis was a heck of a football player. We had some pretty good running backs that year. Like, just pound the ball and keep this thing somewhat within range. No. We found every way to lose that game. And it's the first OU Texas game that I ever left early. First OU Tech, I couldn't do it. Middle of third quarter, I was out. I couldn't.
Oh, you stayed in 05?
I didn't go to 05.
Okay.
And I wouldn't have stayed for 05 either. I bet that was obnoxious. After we beat them 4 or 5 years in a row, I bet that was just
5 years in a row. Yeah. That one was
well, y'all finally completed a touchdown pass, so that must have been a real big win for you guys.
Yeah.
Anyway,
great.
Josh, you can see where this goes. All right. I want to let's wrap this baseball talk off, and then we'll talk some football. Number one, I love Skip Johnson. We did secure him last year, right? We're not going to be worried about him jumping to A&M or anything. That's the first question. And then after you kind of expound on Skip, describe the OU Texas baseball rivalry. Put that in perspective for us. Is the hate as real as it is in other sports? Just kind of walk us through that, and then let's get to some football and see how that season's going to go.
Well, I'm optimistic that, yes, Skip is going to be here for the long haul. You kind of, when a coaching vacancy like A&M comes open the way it did, and, you have somebody like Skip Johnson that's tied to it, and real or imagined or reported or however you want to feel about it, it felt like there was some legitimate momentum for Skip Johnson in that he seriously considered it. And take, whatever you hear with a bit of a grain of salt, but based on some of what you heard coming out of Skip Johnson electing to stay, I think he kind of found out, I got a pretty good deal at Oklahoma with, administration that I like, that I trust, that now I'm getting more support than maybe I got at times or initially. And I've earned that support and I've got that backing. And oh, by the way, I don't have as many hands to deal with in the cookie jar. I don't have as many donors that think that they have say in XYZ. So I think the further you travel down that road, maybe you found out that, okay, compensation's good. Support for the program is good. It's getting better. It's improving. The renovations, we've seen some of that at L. Mitchell Park, and I think you'll continue to see that at Mitchell Park. I think you just kind of found out, you know what, maybe the grass isn't necessarily greener on the other side. And I've got it pretty good at Oklahoma with a fan base that likes me and with a program that, frankly, he's kind of got rolling a little bit here. So I do think you saw that transpire for Oklahoma. Skip Johnson's, he's a great skipper, man. He is always going to be in demand as long as he keeps doing what he's doing because he's a great manager, right? So I'm sure Skip Johnson and his agent and his representation, I would imagine they will continue to field phone calls because it's silly business to not at times field phone calls when you're in demand. I suspect he will be in demand, but I'm optimistic that he's going to be at OU for a long time to come. Again, the way the process played out, I think he found out, you know what, I got it pretty good here.
It just seems like a good fit.
And he's loved, right? I mean, it's when you're well compensated and, again, the resources look like they're continuing to improve, it's okay to stay where you're at and keep building.
Well, the biggest gripe from baseball fans, you hear it on Toby's show almost every day at 8 a.m., was the lack of attendance for years and years, right? Lack of attendance, lack of just support, just general support. I've always argued, same thing with women's basketball, men's basketball. They start winning and they'll show up. And the last couple of years, especially with entry into the SEC, and you have now you're not playing Iowa State, or I don't even know if they have a baseball program. You're not playing Iowa State. You're not playing teams that we've seen 1,000 times. You're playing in the SEC. The support has obviously grown just from a grassroots level. It's a lot of fun to see. That had to have something to do with it. I'm excited about him. All right. Rivalry, place the OU Texas rivalry within the sport of baseball, college baseball. And is there any hate there that maybe me as an outside of the park baseball fan is not aware of?
Well, just briefly, if I can touch on the attendance, I totally understand fans, gripes for you need to improve this or that, and we have to support the program. I would just say, it makes my heart happy as somebody that, on a fill-in basis, obviously, gets to broadcast some of these games and gets to, at times travel with Skip Johnson and, this team. they deserve this support, and it's been awesome seeing those guys get it. I would just also add that I think it is a great illustration too, and we've talked about this, John, you know this, with Oklahoma football, and not to just name a couple of programs by name, but with the Iowa States and the Baylors and a couple of Big 12 football programs, there just wasn't a ton of interest to see Oklahoma play those teams anymore at times. I think the schedule itself, these SEC programs, the newness of it, the difficulty of what Oklahoma and Texas are facing with
the marketing, just the marketing. The
No
SEC
doubt.
marketing is second to none. Like just the excitement that the SEC creates for itself. That's been fantastic.
And I know fans don't care about this, but the SEC leadership, the communications department in the SEC, it's night and day to the Big 12. The way they update the season stats to you, they just do such a good job as a conference from a preparing the broadcast and communications department standpoint. Again, I know that's not something that's on fans' radars, but it's pretty impressive to watch. So the excitement from who you get to see come to Mitchell Park, I think that obviously has played a factor in the attendance side. The rivalry, I think Oklahoma needs to win a little bit more versus Texas. I hate to say it, but I think that's just, you got to beat those guys a little bit more to frustrate them, right? To make them want to turn around and beat you. So I think if Oklahoma can do that and continue to do that, then that would be great for the rivalry. But obviously, look, anytime OU and Texas get together, these two teams don't like each other, right? And that's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it fun.
Post-spring thoughts on football for Oklahoma. How do you think we look? What's your impressions of Jim Nagy through 3 months of employment? And then we'll jump into some OU Texas talk.
Speaking of Grand Slam hires, I thought bringing Jim Nagy aboard was such an obvious get somebody in that has been a part of, scouting and evaluating college players the way that he was with the Senior Bowl for an extended period of time, his connections. I thought from day one, that was an obvious slam dunk hire. So I loved that for OU. And though obviously John Mateer and some of these moves predated Jim Nagy, I think that he and the personnel department have done a really good job. Jaden Ott was a big-time puzzle piece to add into the Oklahoma backfield. I don't think there's any question that OU needed to try to go upgrade at running back. That's not to say that Javonte Barnes can't be and hasn't been a really good running back for Oklahoma, but a star running back, that's, I think, fair to question, right? So Jaden Ott, you went and found that star type running back. Again, Xavier Robinson, could he morph into that? We'll see. Taylor Tatum, could he try and morph into that? If he can hang on to the football, okay, we'll see. But I thought just Oklahoma had a need in its backfield to go find a star running back. And the expectation, obviously, is they've done that with Jaden Ott. I wish they had done a little bit more at tight end. They didn't really necessarily, address that. We'll see about what Carson Kent coming in, if he can maybe surprise a little bit in that regard. The in-house tight ends, somebody has to develop.
Well, here's it. I brought this up with Kevin. Kevin, we broke down the tight end situation because Texas got a big tight end out of Cal, Kevin?
Yeah, Jack Injuries.
Yeah, which I think OU was trying to get in on a little bit. I was curious, maybe tight end just isn't an area of need under Arbuckle's system. And I believe the stats are that they completed like 13 passes to the tight end at Washington State last year. So if the rationale was let's direct resources elsewhere, I'm going to trust that. But as an Oklahoma fan, it just feels unnatural to be so bad at tight end. You know what I mean?
Sure. Absolutely. When you have and Texas certainly has its fair share of, great tight ends and wide receivers and on, skill guys, running backs, of course. But when you're talking about an OU program that has had the Jermaine Greshams of the world, Mark Andrews recently. I thought Calcaterra, when he was healthy, had a chance to be,
Correct.
a really good one for Oklahoma. And obviously it didn't, unfortunately just didn't play out that way. So the lineage of tight ends at OU has been great. And of course, you can go much further back than Jermaine Gresham to find great tight ends in the history of Oklahoma football. But, count me in the camp. I'll drink that flagon, John, of hopium. You serve it up for me, and I'll take it that, hey, Arbuckle didn't throw a bunch of footballs to tight ends, but me personally, man, I'd love to have a star tight end. And I think the young man that Texas got out of Cal, highlight tape can be tricky because it always looks good, right? There's not usually fumbles and dropped passes and those sorts of things on highlight tapes. But I thought Indris looked like, he just looks like somebody that can really move after the catch. I think he's going to be a great tight end, unfortunately, for Texas. I was really hoping OU could land him, but he looks good. So we'll see. I still think that, for me, tight end is a little bit of a concern. Do they have to have that type of, star tight end to go be a 9-10 win football team? Okay, maybe not. If they can lean on the run game and if the offensive line is enhanced and improved the way that we hope it would be, because last year, frankly, up front was largely, it was an abomination for Oklahoma football.
Yeah, it was dog poo. It was dog poo, for lack of a better word. Yeah.
So can they win without a great tight end? Yeah, I think they can get by for a season, but count me in the camp that I hope they can continue to improve. But I like what they've done. I think OU's had a really good offseason, top to bottom. Mateer, I said it midway through last season, John, that, look, with all due respect to Jackson Arnold and with all due respect to what you had in Hawkins at times, at Auburn and in other spots when, he got inserted in there, and with the reality that, look, this is a true freshman that you're tossing in front of the Wolves and into the fire. To me, I thought it was clear midway through last season, you have a potential, I'm not saying a guaranteed, but a potential quarterback problem. And I midway through last season was saying, look, you got to go find a quarterback out of the transfer portal and give Oklahoma credit. They went and got that accomplished. And I think have gotten a very good one in John Mateer, though. Look, I'm not getting caught up in the complete hype train here. Let's see it in the SEC. I think he's going to be great, but where Oklahoma has been and where you hope they're going and the league that they're going to have to navigate to do it in, I will just say, let's see, right, how it shakes out versus SEC defenses. I think he's going to be great. I love the addition of Mateer and the offseason in general for Oklahoma, but I'll hit the pause button just a little bit on the hype into the equation.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Mateer as well. I think he'll be a great leader for Oklahoma. I think he'll be a dynamic playmaker. John and I have talked, though, about the receiver position. Any concern there? How confident does the program feel in the guys that you guys brought in?
I think it's a fair question. I think there's question marks with that room. There's obviously a lot of production. If you take it back, beyond the 24 season, not a lot of production going out based on what those guys did here a season ago, based on injury. And that's a whole can of worms, Kevin, if you want to go down that road on the injury front for OU wide receivers. But production before that, the season before that you lost. So not a ton in the way of returning production for OU for its wide receivers. I think John would echo that Deion Burks, Oklahoma fans are excited if he could be healthy with what his production could look like for the Sooners. Giovanni Gibson, we're told that it's not a long-term injury concern for Giovanni Gibson. And speaking of falling in love with the highlight tape, count me in the camp, baby. I'm all aboard the Giovanni Gibson hype train based on what the tape looks like. So I think he's got a chance to be a really good skill guy for Oklahoma. And obviously you get into Satania was a pretty productive slot guy at Arkansas. Keontez Lewis is somebody that hopefully can help this Oklahoma team. And then, a youngster or two, freshman, that Oklahoma's signed and brought in. Maybe one of those guys can surprise you early. I think, though it didn't really play out that way for OU a season ago, when you were desperate for a freshman wide receiver to step up and show out for you, I do think wide receiver is a position group that, generally speaking, you can be a freshman And as long as you understand what the route concepts, and I get it's probably more complex than I'm giving it credit for, it is the one position group to where you look at it and say, look, if you're a big time wide receiver, I think at times you could come in and help somebody as a true freshman. And maybe OU's got a guy or two like that. Emmanuel Choice would probably be the first guy off the bus in that regard.
That's what I was thinking too.
We'll see, right? I mean, I think, pass catcher is it's fair to have concerns because there's not a ton in the way of proven production, coming back. But I feel good about it. I felt good about OU's wide receivers this time a year ago, and obviously, because of injuries.
Well, last year, I mean, that was a really talented group before the injuries. I mean, to have 5 guys go down, I mean, it's a lot for any quarterback, even Arnold. And I know he had some massive mistakes with the fumbles, but he didn't get the best, the most fair shake with the talent around him.
Offensive line, wide receivers, all of it. Yeah, I'm with you, Kevin.
I look at this group of receivers, and Kevin and I have talked about this in the past as well. I don't see CeeDee Lamb on this roster, or Hollywood Brown, or D.D. Westbrook, or even a Ryan Broyles, Sterling Shepard. I don't see that guy. But I think about, and I know this is old news, but it's still in the consciousness of an OU fan. I think about 99 and 2000 and the introduction of a new offensive system and what it did to those receivers that, let's face it, would have never touched the field in the back half of Bob Stoops' career. Curtis Fagan and Savage and all those guys turned out to be great playmakers. And I think you have to give credit to the system, right? They were just, in some cases, so wide open that they were just put in really, really good positions to make plays. I feel like with Arbuckle, it's going to have to be that in order for this receiver room to be as successful as we need them to be. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And I think that's a great take, John. I'm hoping that you're wrong, at least in some regard to it.
I hope I'm wrong too. I hope we look back and we're like, my gosh, this guy's right up here on the list with everybody. It's just really hard for me to get there. But it's not hard for me to see the potential production, especially with Mateer, especially with Ott, improved offensive line. And if we've got a competent play caller, I mean, my God, last year with the play calling, right? I mean, you talk about, Kevin just talked about, was Jackson given a fair shot, or was Jackson terrible? Did he have a bad offensive line, or did he hold onto the ball too long? Could the running backs not run the ball, or was there a complete lack of development and fumbling on that, just in that position? Was Bauer's shot as absolutely awful as we think he is? I mean, there's no way it was all a dumpster fire. Like, it was all a dumpster fire. And with it all being a dumpster fire, it's like, burn it. I told Kevin this. I have zero concern of any transfers on the offensive side of the ball. Like, and when the portal opened.
You mean transfers out? People playing leaving.
Yeah. Nick Anderson, all the guys.
What you shouldn't.
Because it was awful. So it has to be better, right? It has to be.
I mean, there's nowhere for it to go but up. There's nowhere for it to go but up. It was so historically bad. And, look, as one of my other professional hats, I spend a lot of time covering Iowa athletics. I watched the train wreck very closely that was Iowa's offense under Brian Ferentz. And I hate to tell you, that OU offense was a Brian Ferentz offense last year. It was that bad. It was that embarrassing what was going on with Oklahoma offensively. They were discombobulated. They weren't good up front. The skill guys, now granted, the skill guys were injured, so you didn't get to play what you were dealt. That'd be the one difference.
But you talk about like a freshman stepping up. I mean, who was the white kid that stepped up, Kevin? What was his name?
Oh, the slot guy from South Lake Carroll. I think of his name.
Who was he?
Is it
Josh?
Mr. Johns?
No, the white guy that just stepped up for us in the Ole Miss game, caught a touchdown. He played out of the slot. We thought he was the next coming to Drake Stoops. Anyway,
Jacob, is that right?
What's his name? Man, we've already forgot his name. Anyway, like, I expected to see something from Petaway. I expected to see something out of Reagan's, and you got nothing. Zilch, zero. They were never put in and when they were finally maybe put in a position to succeed, then they would drop the ball or fumble the ball, or Jackson would miss him. I don't know. Anyway, we could go on and on. Kevin, what do you got for Josh?
What do you think about Texas going into next year? I had put up the SEC projected win totals. I know a lot of this is kind of based on the schedule, but just what are your overall thoughts on this? How do you see it shaking out based on what we know so far?
Well, I'll give you a Captain Obvious here. I really do think it boils down to, is Arch Manning that dude? And if he is, then look, I think Texas is going to be really good again and in the mix to win this league. And if not, then this could be your prototypical, fall back in the other direction type year. I would not be surprised to see this be. It would be hard for me to cast a ballot as Texas being my preseason number one team. I don't know who I feel super convicted about, elsewhere. Like Penn State, I see a lot of top 25s, and Penn State's the number one team. I'm like, did we watch the same college football playoff game with Drew Aller out there? So, I don't feel that way about Penn State.
But we did. Hey, but we did see their defense, and we did see their running backs. I agree, Aller is a question, but man, if you can run the ball well and play defense, and that's what they were really, really good at. And when you look at who's coming back, so I'm pushing back a little bit because Kevin and I did this exercise a couple of weeks ago, right, Kevin? Yeah. And it seems weird to say Penn State. No, that can't be right. You can't mean Penn State. Ohio State's replacing a quarterback. Georgia's replacing a quarterback. Alabama's replacing a quarterback. Texas is replacing a quarterback. Oklahoma's replacing a quarterback. Michigan's replacing a quarterback. I mean, the list goes on. All the big boys, and whatever, but all the big boys, they all have massive question marks. And you look at Penn State and go, well, I know exactly what I'm going to get. And I got the defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles, out of Ohio State to contribute to an already top 3 defense in the country. So I kind of like where Penn State is at. I definitely don't trust Drew Aller. I mean, he didn't even complete a pass to a receiver in the college semifinal, which just blows your mind.
Yeah,
but I can get to the argument because I'm not sure who supplants them.
That's a fair point. Yeah, obviously, defense, they're really good, and bringing the Jim Knowles over, who Oklahoma, reportedly kind of tried to bring in. Maybe it was close, but obviously that's a big time addition from a coordinating standpoint on the defensive side of the football. They're already really good. So I'm with you. I don't know. It's a good point that you're making about, the defense is good for Penn State. And if Drew Aller, if they can unlock something else with him, then maybe they are the best team. But I guess if that's where we're at in college football, I don't know that there's a true number one in my mind going in.
I agree. I agree with that. I agree with that completely.
It feels like, look, OU could be in the mix for this thing. Texas, obviously, if Arch Manning is great, could be in the mix for this thing. I look at that board right there with those college football win totals. I love Nussmeier. I think he's a great quarterback at LSU. I think they're a sneaky team that could have one of those LSU seasons, and all of a sudden you look up and they're in the mix to maybe be a college football playoff contender. Georgia, obviously, you gotta respect Kirby Smart and company. They're going to be good. So I don't know. I need to see more with Texas. I wouldn't have them as my preseason number one, and that's just because we kind of lived this experiment with Jackson Arnold just a year ago. Now, do I expect Texas to have the litany of offensive problems that OU had? No, I don't expect Texas to have the, wide-ranging offensive problems across the board that OU had a season ago. But you're still talking about a quarterback that, is young, and I expect to have some growing pains at times in Arch Manning, even as good as we're led to believe that he's going to be. And he very well might be, but that would be kind of my reservation with Texas is I just got to see it, right, with Arch Manning to believe it a little bit.
We surprised to see Alabama so high after their season last year.
A little bit, yeah. And obviously Milrose moving on. So I think it's just the respect for the talent that Alabama has on campus, right? And how much winning they've done over the years. They wouldn't be my pick to win the SEC. I would just probably default and tell you that I like Georgia based on the talent on campus and the fact of who Georgia's been over the last 5 years or so.
Hard to argue with with picking Georgia. It just seems like, though, this conference is wide open this year. And college football as a whole, right? Ohio State will probably be ranked in the top 2 or 3 in the preseason polls. And, they're replacing quarterbacks and um, a lot of depth and talent from the front lines, both sides of the lines, too. So that Texas-Ohio State game is pretty intriguing week 1.
What do you guys think about Texas?
I think we're good. I think we're becoming a reload program instead of a rebuild based on the way that they've recruited and the way that they've developed their talent. Obviously, the knock on Texas for years has been the lack of development, having guys come in as high 4 stars and 5 stars and leaving as, undrafted free agents into the NFL. But I think with Sark's staff, they've done a really good job of developing their guys. We've seen guys who weren't good before the staff got there, maybe 3-star guys, and they've just gotten better year after year after year and become NFL players. So I feel like they'll be good. I do have some concerns. Arch actually is not one of my biggest concerns. I think he'll be fine. I'm a little bit concerned about their losses on the offensive line, right? Losing Kelvin Banks and then losing just a lot of experience up front. I think that really helped them last year, is having that experience. So they have a lot of talent, obviously, but they're going to have to gel. They're going to have to gel quick because you have to protect Arch. And, I didn't love the running game for Texas last year. I thought it was very inconsistent. And I want to see that improve too. Those are really my biggest concerns with them. But I think they'll be in the mix for the SEC.
I worry about Texas on the defensive side. I worry about losing their defensive linemen. They've gone through 2 drafts, losing 5 defensive linemen to the draft.
Yeah, correct.
And I mean, at some point there has to be a rebuild. One would think, maybe not. We'll see. And then obviously John A. Barron to the draft. That guy was a stud. Now, in that mix on the defensive side still remains Colin Simmons, and figuring out a way to block that guy for the list of teams on here is probably their biggest challenge. But I just worry about the number of players they lost. And if you look about it in a cumulative, I know Texas has been bragging, well, we had 25 guys drafted in 2 years. Yeah, but you also lost 25 dudes that are really, really good. So where is that going to come from? I think Arch is going to be better than Quinn. I never was on the Quinn train, not just because he's the Texas quarterback, but I never saw anything that said Quinn's going to go win you a game. Right? Now, he had a great pass in Arizona State. I've never seen him go win a game, though. Like, just take it on him and just march down the field and zip, zip, zip. I think Arch probably has that potential. So Arch isn't my biggest concern. It's just everything else around him. And I think OU is going to be better this year. I think as it relates to Texas' schedule, I think Florida is going to be better this year. Obviously, they have to play Ohio State. They've got to go on the road against Georgia. Those are the 4 games that you can make an argument with a new quarterback, new offensive line, new defensive line. Can they overcome all 4 of those games, or a combination? That to me is your biggest question mark with Texas.
Yeah, that's going to be a big time early litmus test versus Ohio State. That'll be because both teams, right? It's who knows what you're going to get with each of those 2 teams. Kind of fun.
We don't even know who Ohio State's quarterback's going to be yet, which is kind of strange, right? And maybe they have a CJ Stroud type waiting in the wings, right? We didn't expect CJ Stroud to be CJ Stroud. They got the Julian Sayin kid, and they've got a couple of freshmen that they're looking at too. So yeah, it's an intriguing game.
It helps having Jeremiah Smith.
For sure.
That's not a bad place to start.
Guy's absolutely unbelievable. He's absolutely unbelievable. All right. Josh, this is the OU Texas podcast. We're dedicated to the rivalry. The OU Texas football game, the Cotton Bowl, second Saturday of October. To me, it's the greatest sporting event every year. It's I live for it. And I've seen the highs and the lows. What are your best memories, either at the game or watching the game, that you have from that rivalry? And what does it mean to you?
So I grew up in Wichita, Kansas, and I had my dad was a big Jayhawk. My mom was a Sooner. She grew up in Moore in Oklahoma City. And so, always had that draw to Oklahoma. But I I had never gone to the OU Texas game until I got into college because I didn't grow up in the state of Oklahoma. And, look, the Cotton Bowl, when you live in Wichita, Kansas, is a little bit further away, right? So my first OU Texas game would have been 2010. And it looked like Landry Jones and the Sooners had that thing in comfortable control until all of a sudden they didn't late. And Landry Jones is tapping that football out of bounds. And it was a helter-skelter fire drill. But I just remember thinking as I got to the game and walking around the state fair, and I know you guys know this and the listening audience, viewing audience knows this, but if there's one person out there listening or watching that's not been to the OU Texas game, guys, it's not overrated. It is the greatest sports spectacle. I just remember being
it might be underrated. It might be underrated. That's how good it is. Yeah.
It's so special to go be at that game. And that was my first OU Texas experience. And on the Kevin being on the OU Into the Ledger, it's good when you win that OU Texas game. It makes it obviously a much better experience.
Sure.
But I just remember being in the stands and looking around and saying to myself, holy bleep, this is college football. This is freaking college football, man. That environment with the stadium being split down the middle and the fanfare of walking around the state fair and getting the corny dogs and having the waxed cup beer and seeing the OU fans and Texas fans split. There's just nothing like it, man. The heat of that, late autumn day. It's supposed to be hot at the OU Texas game. It's supposed to be a little bit uncomfortable once you get to the second half.
They're also supposed to serve water, though. Let's not brush past that point. It would be nice if they didn't run out of water bottles in that early October heat. Go ahead.
There ain't no doubt about that. Yeah, that is troublesome. Troublesome when the opposite happens. It's just the best, man. Best memories, in a game that OU lost, the Kyler run stands out as an awesome moment as an OU fan. That was pretty sweet, even though you didn't win that game. The Caleb Williams, just that whole game coming back, even though he doesn't stay at Oklahoma, him tossing to the end zone there to Marvin Mims was an incredible individual play. The hurdle and the stiff arm was that oh man.
Was that Trey Millard?
Yeah. And the Dom Whaley run comes to mind as his big run stands out. Snatching the football away. Who was it Jamel Fleming, the OU defensive back, when you're on the right end of one of those Texas beatdowns? Oh, baby, just make him wear every last second of it. And he just rips the football away and races the other way. That comes to mind as a great OU Texas moment. That's when it's like, man, you're just making these guys just deal with it on that day. And unfortunately, Sooner fans have been on the wrong end of that a couple of times these last 3 seasons. But just the best game in the world, man. I think regardless of sport, college football, NFL, if you ask me best sporting event, it's OU Texas, and there's no discussion. No discussion.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of when you walk in that stadium, you have no idea what's going to happen. Doesn't matter if you're ranked number one and the other team is unranked. I think we've both been on that end, right? I walked in there in 2013, and Texas is not very good, already with 2 losses, and beat OU this 36-20. It's out of nowhere, so just never know what's going to happen. So I think we've all had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows walking out of that stadium.
My highest of highs, lowest of lows occurred all in the first half of my first game. I also, Josh, didn't grow up in Oklahoma. So the first OU Texas game I went to was 99, which was my 21st birthday, and I would have been like a sophomore at OU. My sister got me student tickets, and it was 99 with Mike Leach. And you're up 17-0 in the first quarter, and I've lost my voice. I've lost my mind. I've gone just insane. And then by halftime, tied 17-17, you're like, what has happened? What is going on? I hate these. And then the student section was on the 50. And so I was like right next to the Texas fans. It's exactly what you want, but at the same time, it's like I would, take me a little further in the bowl so I could just be surrounded by some crimson.
That's where you learn the hate.
Oh, that's when the hate hits, man. And growing up in Texas is where you learn to hate too. like growing up in Texas, and my dad was from Oklahoma. I was always an Oklahoma fan. So there were some years where I could proudly wear the Sooner stuff after that game. And then there were years where it was like, oh, this is going to be miserable. But
welcome to my world.
Yeah,
right now.
Kevin. Okay, hey, Josh, he married a Sooner. 2 degrees from OU. She's a double Sooner.
Hey, good choice, Kevin. You married well, man.
Hey, yeah, she's a great person. I can't take that away. I can't. Her family, they're all Sooners, man. But it's interesting. My first game was the 0-1, the Teddy Lehman game. So I think what you learn about is the momentum shifts. They're seismic, right? I mean, you feel like you've got a game under control. This is over, and then within minutes, it's flipped the other way. We're talking about the Kyler Murray game. We were talking about that. I mean, Texas is up by 3 scores, and it was very comfortable. And then he just turns into Superman just like that. And with Tyler, it's so interesting because I watched his whole high school career, winning 3 straight state titles at Allen, and I always knew he was that dude. But just see him do that at that level, it was very impressive. This guy wasn't human.
The loudest, that's the loudest OU Texas game I've ever been to, because of both sides. Both sides were going insane. And then to hear the background story of what likely happened in the locker room between the coaches and what that game must mean to them, that dudes are that a Stoops is getting fired coming out of that game. I mean, the context, the Kyler context, and Texas coming back, and OU. Listen, the loudest OU Texas game I'd ever been to. It was absolutely fantastic, except for losing. To me, the favorite game is still 21, though. I mean, 21 is just going to be so hard to overcome. It's going to be so hard to overcome. I mean, because how far up were y'all in 21, Kevin? 28-3, something like 21-3?
35-7.
Yeah.
35-7, yeah.
What a great game. Loved that one.
I'm glad I wasn't there for that one. I don't know how I would have reacted to seeing you guys rush the field there. Like, I just don't know if I couldn't have handled that.
Kennedy Brooks ran straight at me and Tyler McComas.
Yeah, that's great.
I've never hugged a man as hard as I hugged Tyler McComas that afternoon. And we were hot and sweaty and happy. And
it didn't matter.
The hug was long and deep, and it felt amazing. It was unbelievable. Hey, we only got you for a short time here. We know you're a Thunder fan, right?
Oh yeah, Thunder up, baby. Let's go.
Okay, predictions for tonight.
Well, I think OKC's going to close it. I expect and anticipate, and I think the odds makers pretty much are saying as much too, because we've seen OKC throughout the course of the series versus Denver favored by 9.5, 10.5. And obviously this shifts back to Ball Arena in Denver. And so the spread right now, last I looked, was 4.5. So basically that tells me the odds makers are looking at this thing and saying, hey, there's one final couple of uppercuts coming from Denver in this thing. And I sort of expect to see that a champion in Nikola Jokic and company, they're not going down without swinging. I just think that for OKC in games 4 and 5, they might have looked extinction in the eye a little bit at times, where you could have had this thing twist the wrong direction on you. And instead they clutched up in both occasions and found a way to win those games. SGA feels to me like he's just due to have an efficient game at some point from start to finish.
His fourth quarter in game 5 though was about as good as it gets.
Sure.
He has not had the series. He's not had the series Jokic had. I mean, Jokic has had a historic series. But when we've needed SGA in those moments, like the fourth quarter of game 5, Kevin, you were there. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a moment for sure. And it's one of the loudest sporting events I've ever attended. It was definitely in there.
And those decibels will, we hope, continue to rise as they make their way throughout this NBA playoffs run. Maybe he can roll over that finish to game 5 into game 6 when you talk about SGA kind of being due to have a start to finish performance. Maybe that's part of what this team, I don't think it's the worst thing that they got tested a little bit and had, a slop fest win along the way. And then obviously another one where they got down by double figures in game 5 and rallied back, and Lou Dort hit those, big trio of 3-pointers. So I just kind of feel like maybe they got over the hump throughout game 4 and game 5 a little bit. I expect Denver to not go down without swinging back at them, but And I worry a little bit about the quote unquote other guys, the Michael Porter Juniors of the world. Eventually, right, they're not just going to keep missing shots. Russell Westbrook, if he's got an open 3-pointer, is he just going to airball a couple more again? Like, you worry about that a little bit. But something tells me OKC's better. They're deeper than Denver. They've been taken to the brink a little bit, if you will. And I think they don't play with their food. I think they get it done in Game 6 tonight. I'll say OKC 113, Denver 107.
Kevin, are you good with that?
I'm good with that. Absolutely.
You'll take it, won't you? Kevin's got tickets lined up for tickets lined up for the conference finals, Kevin?
Yes.
Look at this guy. The podcast is doing so well that he's going to conference finals. We're not even going to talk about his seats. They're so good. Josh, man, we so much appreciate this. Have a great weekend calling OU Texas Friday and Saturday. Can't wait to hear you on the radio with Dari. And of course, listen to you almost every day with Plank. Dude, this was we really, really enjoyed it, man. And thank you so very much for coming on.
Kev, thanks, man. I appreciate you. John, likewise. And let me say, we love you guys at Brown O'Haver too, man. It's not lost on me. And I think I can speak for Brian and Casey and our station a little bit and say it's not lost on us. Your support and Brown O'Haver's support. And, we appreciate what you guys do for us and in part what you do for Sooner fans with your relationship and partnership with us. And I enjoyed it too, man. It's fun hanging out with you guys, and don't be strangers. Reach out anytime. I'd be happy to jump on. And
dude,
hey,
baby. After this one, just be ready, man. After we know what you can bring, just be ready. So we only got Teddy for one episode. Teddy said he will come on one episode, and it was episode 69. And so we've shot our shot with Teddy, right? So now that we know what you can bring, dude, you're on the list, bro. Hey, man, have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. You too.
All right, there we go. Josh is gone. How fun was that, Kevin? You know more about baseball than you ever thought you were going to know?
For sure, man. And I can't wait to check out the Dari Noka show with him. It's going to be great.
Dude, that's a big-time hire, man.
It really is.
That is a big-time
hire. It says a lot about him, right? What they think about him that, they're bringing in a guy from ESPN, the lead anchor of the SEC network, and they chose him to pair with him. So it says a lot about him.
Well, you saw it right here, man. Right. The energy. And funny story about Josh Helmer. I don't know if he can still hear me or not, or when he listens back to this. Jeffrey, my son, we always talk about Jeffrey. This is the time.
Shout out Jay Weezy.
Which we pick on Jeffrey. Jeffrey, one summer in between, I think maybe freshman and sophomore year, interned at KREF.
I remember that.
He interned at the Plank Show.
I remember that.
And so him and Josh.
Yeah, he ran the board. Did a great job too.
Him and Josh became buds, and Josh was his caddy at the Norman Invitational Tournament that it happens every 4th of July.
That's awesome.
So Josh had to caddy. Jeffrey won in a random raffle. He did not win the tournament. I think Logan McAllister was there. He's on the PGA Tour now, took it going away. Shockingly. But shockingly. But Jeffrey won 2 Titleist wedges in the raffle, and luckily they were both right-handed. So he gave me one because I'm his dad, and he gave Josh the other one. I don't know if Josh still has it or not. I don't think he's a big golfer.
It's a great gift.
I think he just puts it up like on his mantle, the great.
Yeah.
Kevin, we've got some other stuff going on here. We didn't even mention softball. We probably could have talked softball. Obviously, he's with Chris Plank for hours on a day. Softball regionals start this weekend, so make sure you're paying attention to that. I think Oklahoma plays Boston University. Is that right?
Pull that up real quick.
Pull that up real quick. I want to go ahead and give you my take on the PGA Championship. Luckily for me, Rory McIlroy's already had his first round because I was going to say how awesome it was going to be and how dominating he was going to be now that he's got the monkey off his back of winning the Grand Slam and winning a recent major. However, he has not done so hot. Let me give you a leaderboard through. Let's see.
While you pull that up, OU softball versus Boston University, 5 p.m.
Who's Texas play?
Friday. Let me get Texas real quick. They're hosting as well, as you'd imagine.
Yeah, in the lead at the PGA Championship, Ryan Gerard. I am a huge golf fan, Kevin, and I have never heard of Ryan Gerard. He's at -7 through 16.
Wow.
Luke Donald, an old head from England. He's going to be the captain on the Ryder Cup team for the Europeans. He shot a bogey-free 67. Keegan Bradley, the captain of the Americans this year, was in at 68. The big boys struggled, though. The big boys struggled. Let me. I'm having to scroll quite a bit down just to find Scotty and McIlroy. Bryson DeChambeau is 1 through 1. He's
while you look that up, Texas softball hosting a regional. They'll be playing against Eastern Illinois. Also in their bracket, Michigan and Central Florida.
That'll be easy. That'll be cake for Texas, right?
You would think so.
I had McIlroy. McIlroy finished with a 74 +3, currently tied 98th. I'm not seeing Texas graduate Scotty Scheffler.
Now this year it's in Quail Hollow, right? That's in Charlotte. Is that correct?
So the interesting part about Scheffler, actually Scheffler finished at -2. He's fine. Scheffler's in great spot. He's in great spot. Tied 15. He's fine. It's Rory that had the bad day. So it's at Quail Hollow in North Carolina. This is typically the course they play, the Wells Fargo, now known as the Truist Championship. McIlroy has won that like 4 or 5 years. So he's definitely the horse for this course, but round 1 wasn't good to him. They've had a lot of rain, so the conditions are softer, which typically makes scoring a little better because the ball doesn't run out as much on the fairways. These greens have a sub-air system, which are going to suck a lot of moisture. So the greens should be plenty hard. They can probably make those greens as hard as they want. But it's the receptiveness of the fairways, right? For a guy like DeChambeau, and I would have thought Rory, to be able to bomb it out there, and if it hits in the fairway, there's a good chance it stays in the fairway, doesn't like careen off or run off, especially when you're cutting like dog legs and stuff. So I expect DeChambeau to actually be in pretty good shape. He's coming off a live win and a pretty good showing in the Masters. He didn't have his iron game going, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. Scotty, now that I saw his score, tied for 15th at -2. He's in great shape. That's anything under par day 1. I don't know who Ryan Gerard is. Ryan Gerard ain't going to be there on Sunday, so I'm not worried about him. Although there was the 91 PGA. Do you know this story?
I don't.
This is when the 9th alternate, so 9 dudes had to drop out of the tournament for him to get in the tournament. John Daly, as the 9th alternate, a nobody from nowhere, wins his first ever PGA Tour victory, let alone a major, to become the cult figure that is now John Daly, right?
Correct. Yeah. Great story.
Dude, I think there's a 30 for 30 on John Daly. That is a roller coaster life. It is.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And he is truly unique. And I think he still continues to fight demons, man. Like even this far, his son is a very competitive golfer. He was at Arkansas, might still be a very, really good golfer. I expect to see good things from him. So, he's got strong relationship with him, which has been positive. But man, dude, like he was on Breaking 50 with Bryson DeChambeau on Bryson's YouTube channel. And man, he went deep on the alcoholic beverages, bro. It was crazy to watch, because you're just watching, you're like, yeah, because you're like, yeah. But anyway, that's my PGA Championship preview. Expounding on the Thunder just a little bit, what do you think tonight's going to look like?
Yeah, man, I think it's really important for them to close it out. It kind of reminds me, back in 2003, for our older listeners, the Spurs, they had a competitive series against the Lakers. Lakers are coming off a three-peat, right? Trying to win four in a row. And they had a game five, really close game. Actually, the Spurs were up by about 20. And then Kobe leads a furious comeback for the Lakers. And it comes down to the last play. Spurs have a 1-point lead. The Lakers have the ball, and they kind of go around the horn. They find Robert Ory wide open. When Robert Ory is open in a clutch situation,
Mr. Clutch.
we know how this ends. It ends
Big
with
shot
him making
Bob.
the shot. Correct.
Big shot Bob.
So he fires up the three. The ball is halfway down, ends up coming out of the rim, rims out. Spurs get the rebound. Game's over. They win game five. Heartbreaker for the Lakers. They then go on the road to LA, and they just blew out LA. LA was done mentally after that. And I'm curious to see what Denver still has left. We know Jokic is going to show up, right? Because that's just what he does. I'm worried about these other guys, though, right? What are we going to see? And like you said, Jokic was historically good the other night, but the other guys, they couldn't hit a shot in the fourth quarter. I mean, Porter, multiple open looks from three he's missing. Aaron Gordon had a couple looks he missed. Westbrook throwing up air balls, like Josh was saying. So what are we going to see from those other guys? I think Shea they just come in really locked in and focused, task at hand, and they get the job done. I think they close it out tonight.
And I think it's the legs on the young guys. I think it's Case and Wallace.
Yeah.
The defense that Caruso brings. It wears you out. Lou Dort wears you out. Yes. Caruso wears you out. Case and Wallace wears you out.
And that's the thing, like you're saying, right? You can use all of your energy defensively if you're Dort, because, okay, we'll sit him down, and then we bring in Case and Wallace. And then, okay, now we bring in Caruso. It's just a lot for Jamal Murray to have to deal with.
Yeah.
And again, they're not deep. They play 8 guys. Denver, that's it. They only play 8 guys. So they have their starting 5, Christian Brown, Jamal Murray, Jokic, Porter, and Aaron Gordon. And then off the bench, Westbrook is their top guy. And then they'll bring in Peyton Watson, and then Strawler will play about 10 minutes, and that's it.
Man,
right?
And listen, we all love Russ. We all love Russ. Everybody loves Russ. This doesn't have to be a Russ love fest, but we all love Russ. But I just don't think of Russ as a big time playoff contributor over the history of his career. It just he's been relatively flat. He's had some performances, and some big moments. I'm not going to take those away from him, but it's just he's not the threat as a 6th man that a former MVP you think would be, And so for him to be their main guy off the bench is concerning, I think, for Denver.
Yeah.
And
he's very important for them.
Sure. He's a heartbeat of the team. Heartbeat of the team.
No, I mean, they are relying on him to play well, which is rough for them.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
That's
my point. Again, that's my point, though.
Yeah. So it's tough for them. The lack of depth there. The Thunder are playing 10 guys. They're playing 10. Denver's playing.
And they're okay with it. And they'll keep dudes in. They'll keep dudes in that are playing well.
I
mean, look at what Dort did. I can't believe he left Dort.
He saved the season, man. He hit 3 threes, and things weren't going well at that moment. The arena had gotten flat. It was just a very nervous energy in that building. With the way Jokic was playing, Jamal Murray was playing well. And he hit those 3. And again, you have to say, if you're the coach for Denver, we have to double team Shea if he starts to drive towards the basket. So someone you have to leave open, and that person happened to be Dort. And credit to him, he hit 3 massive 3-pointers. It just uplifted the team, and the building went nuts. So it just completely shifted the momentum.
I thought it was a pretty ballsy move by Dagnall, because I didn't think he should have been in there. I watched this. I'm like, why is Dort starting the fourth quarter? What are we doing? And either he saw something or felt he was due, or whatever the case was. It was a gutsy call, and it worked out. I think I agree with both you and Josh from earlier. I think I think Denver shot its shot in Game 5, and it's everything they had. And when you come up short like that, they'll be at home. They're going to get rejuvenated. The crowd will be there. But, dude, they have played – these 5 games have been brutal for Denver physically.
Yeah.
We keep forgetting that they blew them out in Game 2 historically. So it
and
physically –
he played the entire fourth quarter, right? I mean, he played 44 minutes out of 48 in Game 5. 44 minutes.
And when he's in there, man, look, he's not going up against Dennis Rodman, but he's facing 2 7-footers every turn.
Yeah.
And young guys that can just run and jump and run and jump and run and jump. Now, look, Jokic he's holding up his end. Don't get me wrong.
Correct. He had 44 points. I mean, he had 40. What did he have? 44 the other night?
Yeah, in 44 minutes. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and he's so efficient doing it. The thing is, and he got tired down the stretch. But what are they supposed to? As soon as he comes off the floor, it falls apart for them offensively.
Yeah.
He has to be out there just to keep the game close.
Kevin, enjoy that game tonight. Enjoy the OU Texas baseball rivalry. This will take place on Friday at SEC Plus Network or SEC Network Plus. For OU fans out there, it sounds like Toby's probably going to be on the TV call. And Josh Helmer is going to be on the radio calls Saturday or Friday and Saturday. So make sure and tune in for that. Enjoy the PGA Championship. It's a great weekend of sports. And, of course, enjoy the Thunder. Kevin, have a great weekend. Boomer!
Hook 'em.